There's been a recent trend lately that I find interesting. I don't have a problem with it myself, but some hardcore comic book fans do, which is a decision that makes sense to me: the absence of the superhero origin story from some more recent superhero films. There's a few I want to go through. So it's where a film doesn't bother showing us how the main character became a superhero. Now, that can mean two things. For example, it could mean how they got their superpowers, if they have superpowers, or simply how and why they chose to become a superhero vigilante. Several examples ahead. In the recent James Gunn Superman, we don't see Superman's origin story as we did in other Superman films in the past. There's no flashbacks to his spaceship crash landing on Earth and being discovered by his parents. There's no scenes where we see him learning to fly or getting into his Superman suit for the first time and so forth. There's been different interpretations of this. Sometimes it's Clark's mother who makes the suit for him. Other times, the suit is something he discovers in the Fortress of Solitude. But regardless, we don't see any of that in this 2025 Superman film. We're thrown in the deep end, 3 years into Superman's career, and the setup is dispensed with. Some people like that. Some don't. Some people are a bit more puritanical about this. To them, every time there's a reboot of a superhero character, they want to see the origin story again. I personally don't think it would have been necessary for that film. I don't think we needed to see it, given that it's something we've probably seen enough times in other iterations of Superman, including on television. If you ask most people who Superman is and where he came from, they'll tell you that he came from the planet Krypton, and he was sent to Earth as a baby, and that he was raised by human parents. There's not much need to spend a lot of the movie showing all of that again, though even a brief opening credits montage of his early life might have been preferable to the text that we got in Superman 2025. The Fantastic Four First Steps shows us briefly in archival footage the team before they get their powers. It's summarized very quickly, before they go into space and after, but it's not a major plot point in the film. Much like Superman, they're already several years into their careers as superheroes, they have their powers, they're already world famous, and so the origin story isn't a significant part of the movie as it was in the 2015 Fantastic Four and 2005 Fantastic Four films. Back in 2017, the Tom Holland Spider-Man Homecoming film, which was his first Spider-Man film, didn't show us how Peter Parker got his superpowers. I suspect this is because the filmmakers knew that the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies were still pretty fresh in people's minds, and we can all remember clearly seeing Peter getting bitten by a radioactive spider. Again, if you ask most casual cinema goers, how did Spider-Man get his powers? How did Peter Parker become a superhero? Most of them know that he was bitten by a radioactive spider. So I can understand why it wasn't really necessary to show that again in Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, conversely, the inciting incident of Bruce Wayne/Batman's origin story has been shown multiple times in film. In the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman film, where we see his parents get shot in an alleyway when he was a young boy. We see another version of this event in the 1995 film Batman Forever, where of course the late Val Kilmer played Batman. Then in 2005, we saw a new version of this scene in the Christian Bale Batman film, Batman Begins, which is a film I think had the most detailed exploration of Bruce's backstory, really delving into what drove him to become the cape and cowl wearing Dark Knight vigilante. And then we saw another new version of this scene just 11 years later in yet another reboot in the 2016 film Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, where, of course, Ben Affleck plays Batman. We see a young Bruce Wayne again, watching as his parents get shot and killed in an alleyway. And I remember when they showed this, I was like, do we really need to see this again? To be fair, at least it was a pretty quick montage. It wasn't a major part of the film, but this event was still quite fresh in my mind from Batman Begins. The 2022 film, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, does not show this scene. Perhaps it's already been sufficiently imprinted in people's minds that it's no longer necessary. Although, a new version of this scene does appear in a non-Batman film, Joker, from 2019. I guess it comes down to how well known the superhero is to most casual viewers. Lesser well-known superheroes will always need to have an elaborate explanation for how they came to be. The most popular ones are already well established in popular culture and quite iconic. There's a strong familiarity there, and not much need to retread over old ground. Previous films and TV shows and comic books and so forth have already done much of the heavy lifting in terms of ingraining these heroes' stories into people's minds. So, a quick summary or montage is kind of ideal, rather than a protracted plot point that takes up too much of the beginning of the film. Fantastic Four are, of course, not as well-known superheroes as Superman, Batman, or Spider-Man, but I still like how their origin was set up in First Steps, with a TV show presenter giving us an explanation with a few segments of archival footage and then a montage of them using their newfound powers to save people. It works, it's short, sweet, and an efficient way of setting them up so that we can quickly move on to the main story of the film. However, there are going to be films where the origin story is the main story of the film, where the hero must learn to use their powers and adapt to them. They must learn to become their new superhero alter ego, integrating their new abilities into their lives and discovering, much like Spider-Man did, that with great power comes great responsibility. The presence and need for the origin story really comes down to what kind of story the filmmakers are trying to tell. In the case of the Superman 2025 film, Fantastic Four First Steps, Batman v Superman, Spider-Man Homecoming, and The Batman, the origin story wasn't an essential element. Anyway, I'm going to throw this one over to you. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to be notified of future updates, hit that like button, share this video out there. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.